Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Yeah.
Can I make you groove now? Yes, I can. So you can get this groove in the back of a can. You can make it rhyme and groove and it holds in your hand. Popcorn World. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. 250 flavors gonna make you smile. I said popcorn make you smile. Ah. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. Popcorn World. The Popcorn World.
Hey everybody, it's Lloyd Spencer. Listen, BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's NBA playoff, pro basketball playoff. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs, whether it's basketball, Major League Baseball, NHL hockey, right to UFC and boxing. Big fight this weekend. Gonna be a good one, y'all. Listen, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline.ag is where the game starts. Tell the noise maker.
You're now listening to BLEAV in the ACC with Heisman Trophy winner and Florida State legend, Mr. Charlie Ward, Wave 3 TV, and Burn Creek Hall of Famer Kendrick Haskins, and Mr. Talking Noise himself, and of course Mama Noise's name, Lloyd Smith. And now, it's time for BLEAV in the ACC.
Man, we are super excited to be here. Sometimes you have a show and you know it's going to be good right off the top because of the guy who's coming in here. And this is one of those shows. Ladies and gentlemen, UofL legend, Buffalo Bills icon. I'm going to call him an icon. Like an icon living, in the words of the great Will Smith's son, Jaden. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Wood is in the building. Good to have him here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Lloyd. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, man. It's good to have you here. I am thrilled to have the opportunity to meet you. Full disclosure, everybody, I am meeting Eric for the first time. I did not have the pleasure. I only got to cover you or see you as a fan. I was not covering the University of Louisville at the time. But listen, I'm a fan, bro.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. The only reason I looked at the Bills ever, I'm a Giants fan. I have never rooted for the Bills ever. But when you got there, I got it's L1. At that point, it's L1. I gotta root for my guys. So congratulations on a phenomenal career, my brother.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, you start following the only true team that plays in the state of New York.
Don't do that. Eric, we got off a good start here. We started good there. Yeah. And then kind of went off the rails there for just a second.
He's just taking geographical facts.
Right. No, the Giants got two good friends of mine and great men running that organization right now. Joe Shane was the assistant GM with the Bills. Good buddy of mine. I've had him on my podcast, and then Brian Dayball was with the Bills for a number of years. I played against his teams, and then me and him got to hang out a bunch when he came to the Buffalo Bills. So two guys that I respect a ton, and what they did in year one with those two is remarkable. And it shows what an offensive coordinator that's willing to use the strengths of a quarterback and not make him fit his offense, because Brian Daboll made – I don't want to say made, but he helped Josh Allen become super successful, and then in a different way put different weapons in place in different positions to help Daniel Jones succeed. And actually, my agency is the one that just helped Daniel Jones get paid in New York. So good on him for getting paid. And you know what? Man, we won't turn this into a Giants podcast, but you know, they were going back and forth, and there's articles documenting this.
Please don't. Please.
There's no insider information here. But, you know, they kept saying, hey, we want Daniel Jones to be the quarterback of the future, but then they didn't want to pay him that $40 million a year mark. Well, what's that tell your team? What's that tell your quarterback if you're not willing to give him that money? So, yes, you don't need to make the 10-year commitment that the Chiefs made Mahomes, but you also got to pay him accordingly if he's your guy.
Right. Well, first of all, welcome to the show. And I'm going to welcome you properly, because we're not just going to let you get away with that flex you just have.
And that was a humble flex.
You can't do that. You can't, guess or not. You can't come on our show and flex. We're not going to. We have a button specifically designed for that thing.
I love it.
But secondly,
Usually it's reserved for Charlie Ward.
I was just going to say. But secondly, you are 1,000% correct. And not only do we have a coach, but we have an actual GM who knows how to GM, who understands what the responsibility of a GM is. Take care of your guys, stop overspending, stop overreaching. That's all we ask. We're a very humble fan base. We don't ask for much.
Humble.
I know a Cowboy fan is not going to talk about humility.
I'm not. I'm calling you out for your falsehoods.
Giants fans aren't arrogant. We're low key. We're realistic.
I've never met anyone that's a fan of anything in the city of New York who was not arrogant. and your former GM got you your quarterback.
Well, yeah, but you got to give him credit for that. I'll give him credit for that. But
I wish you kept Gettleman forever. As a Cowboys fan, I wish you kept Gettleman forever.
I know you do. Let's move on. Because this is about UofL today and ACC and all those wonderful things. And Eric is here. And listen, how excited are you, man, to see a Brom back in the building?
Well, we got multiple Broms back in the building. But I'm very excited to have Jeff Brom back. You know, Jeff's the guy who gave me my only scholarship to college. He recruited me. Yes, Bobby Petrino was the head coach, but Jeff Brom was the one recruiting me out of Elder High School in Cincinnati. That was the only scholarship I was offered. And so for Jeff, I feel like I just owe him forever for giving me that opportunity. But Jeff Brom is one heck of a ball coach. He's done it for years. He's experienced. And for the University of Louisville, so many young up-and-comers, whoever you bring in, it's a stepping stone job. And you can see that as a knock on the program, but 98% of programs are like that. I mean, you could go around the SEC and coaches are looking to make the jump to a better school. And so, yes, that's the reality for the University of Louisville, unless you can find that unicorn. And Jeff Brom, who wants to be in this city, who played at UofL, who has family ties here, he can be our unicorn where we can have on-field success, high levels of success, and not worry every single year if we're going to lose our head coach. And so I'm excited to have Jeff Brom back. The way it worked out for the school, when you look at Satterfield being poached by Cincinnati and them paying the buyout.
What is that about? I don't even understand.
Well, you know, I'll say this. When Satterfield came to the University of Louisville, he came in with a very, very strong reputation in college football.
He did.
Now, they had to deal with COVID in year 2, which is kind of his secrets, taking away some of his secret sauce, and that's the relationship with the players, having them over his house, the coach's houses, all of that. It takes away a little bit of his secret sauce. They weren't able to recruit the way that they would have liked to because of COVID. And you could say, well, Well, how did that affect everyone else? Well, when you have more of a blue chip program, sometimes they recruit themselves. It was only his second year on the job at U of L.
Right.
And so there were some things holding him back. But that South Carolina interview that became public, instantly this Cardinal fan base that said, hey, we're giving a guy from App State an opportunity at the University of Louisville. He's going to be really appreciative after year one when you take that interview and it becomes public. Well, now you got a fan base that's saying, hey, pretty much what I just said. If we're good enough, he's going to bounce. Otherwise, we're just going to have to keep him. And so to bring Jeff Brom back to U of L is incredible.
Yeah, nobody wants. Go ahead, Kendrick.
I was gonna say, Eric, you put it perfectly as far as Satterfield goes, because I always felt like record wise, I thought he was fine. And you had the one COVID year because it was COVID. I mean, it affected everybody. It definitely affected athletics at U of L. Right. But other than that, especially when you consider that first year, what he did that first year, and because they went 2-10 in Bobby's last year, and then he goes to a bowl game that first year, and so he record-wise, he was fine, but yeah, you're dead on with that South Carolina interview. Once that happened, that soured the fan base, and the way everything worked out with him leaving and Jeff coming in, I mean, it could not have worked out more perfect for the university.
You're exactly right.
Nobody ever wants to feel like they're the second choice, or you're just dating us until you find something better.
Right.
That's kind of what he came across as with that old South Carolina thing. Like, oh, we're not good enough for you. Really?
And okay. Bobby Petrino left for the Atlanta Falcons. Right. I get it. Charlie Strong left for the University of Texas.
Right.
I get it. South Carolina, that felt very lateral. I understand the geographical draw for Satterfield to get closer to family and friends, similar to what we're talking about with Jeff Brom coming back here. Right. But South Carolina, that just seems like a very lateral move. It's not his alma mater. It's not that close to Boone, North Carolina, where he's from. So to me, that was like what are we doing here?
Right.
And what's interesting is the Cincinnati move. You're like, really? Like,
well, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, but U of L was not willing to extend him or his assistant coaches.
Right.
So oftentimes that's basically saying, go look around.
Right.
Go look around. Hey, we don't want to pay your buyout, so we're not going to get rid of you. But if we're not going to give you an extension, if you coach in that lame duck season, and especially for his assistants, I'll give Satterfield this. I spent a lot of time around the program. He was a neighbor of mine when he lived here in town. Great person and truly cares about his staff and their families. That's cool. So when they didn't give the assistant coaches any job security there, he said, okay, well, how do I find them more job security? I had all of them move from around the country to come with me to U of L. I got to protect them and their families in this instance, and I respect him for that.
That's fair. That's fair.
And the way because like think about it, was as much heat that Brian Brown was getting after that second and third year, and he kept him on. I mean, that shows you his loyalty to his coaching staff, because just about any other coach and Brian Brown's the nicest guys you can meet, but boy, they were struggling.
And he's also highly sought after. I mean, University of Tennessee tried to pay him over $1 million a year to come be their defensive coordinator, and he decided to stick around Louisville because he loves Satterfield and he believes in him and his trajectory and aligning himself with Satterfield. And he also loved the city of Louisville. His kids were at Christian Academy. They lived out in Lake Forest. They were comfortable here. They loved it here. And so Brian Brown was sought after as well. And, since we don't have pro sports in Louisville, it is incredible to play at the university. It makes it a big time feel around town. Right. You're essentially what the Bengals and Reds were to us when I was a kid growing up in Cincinnati. The bad thing is we can get hyper-focused in on the college athletics and maybe sometimes, overthink maybe what we are as a program. And that's good and bad. The good news is, when U of L basketball's rolling, they have the highest net revenue in the country, and it's not even close. And when Cardinal Stadium is rocking and rolling, I say Papa John's because it was rocking and rolling.
That's what it was when you were playing.
Right.
When Cardinal Stadium is packed to the brim, that's an awesome venue. But then there's also times where we're like, man, Brian Brown stinks, this and that. Okay, well, who are you bringing in to replace him? Like, show me the replacement and then we can talk. But Brian Brown has a pretty good track record.
Right.
Well, you got us in an interesting place now, so I want to stay. I know we're going to talk draft in a minute, but this is an interesting type of part of the conversation. How much of this sounds bad, but it's not bad. How much is the delusion of our fan base and the expectation of that hurting the program, or is it helping the program in some ways to kind of keep it relevant and keep it out there and keep it attractive? Is it hurting or helping us?
That's a really interesting question. So I would say for basketball, it's not a disillusion. There's high expectations on the basketball program, and rightfully so. You have a storied basketball program. You have one of the nicest arenas in the country. You have that brand new Denny Crum dorm right across from a brand new practice facility. You're in a major city.
Right.
It is what it is. You're in Kentucky where people love basketball. I mean, it's a top 6 program in the country, and it is what it is. And, people around the country will knock at that. And I'll say, look at their budget, look at their revenue, look at the arena, look at the coaches that we've had. Okay. Now it makes sense. Look at the history that the University of Louisville has had.
Right.
When it comes to football, we don't have that history. We've had very bright moments. We've had incredible moments. We were fumbling over ourselves in the second half against Rutgers from playing in a national championship.
Right.
And how many programs can say that? And so we've had really bright moments, but the consistency over time just isn't there with the football program. So at times, especially with this current generation that's seen Sugar Bowl, seen Orange Bowl, seen these bright moments, at times there is some disillusionment with the football program. But I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Jeff Brom, in time, can build another powerhouse here. And look at the way Satterfield was able to recruit last year.
Yeah.
Us being the flagship Adidas school, like we hate not being a Jordan brand, and we hate, not being Nike when it comes to basketball recruits a lot of time. Well, when you're the top Adidas school, there's some guys that are going to be funneled your way. And you have Steve Clarkson helping out on the back end, and this is all above water now. I mean, we could talk about it freely here,
right?
UofL's been able to kind of find a niche in this NIL space in recruiting and get really creative. I'll give my boy Pete Nocta a lot of credit. They were doing the private pictures on private jets and getting them content at the private airport and the cars. They were doing that first. I didn't see that anywhere else before I saw that at the University of Louisville. Now, we can credit Pete. I'm sure Steve Clarkson was helping out with that, relaying what these kids want, and a lot of it is content, similar to us creating content right now.
Right.
For these kids, they want the content. They want to build their brand so that they can be more marketable. Yeah. Okay, we're going to help you do that here at UofL. And so I do think that this is a football program that can consistently be in the top 25.
How wild was it for you to see like Lamborghinis parked on midfield at the Cardinal Stadium?
So I actually went out there that day. I brought my son, who's 5, and we were calling it his first official visit.
Right.
Hey, and you know what?
Start early.
And you know what? That is another sign of what type of dude Satterfield is. Like, hey, bring your son out here and let him get some pictures in the cars. Right. And my daughter's holding up the pom-poms posing with the car. Like, that's really that shows what type of guy he is. But for me, would that have swayed me to go to the University of Louisville? Probably not.
Yeah.
When I was 18. But now in this day and age, who knows? I might have wanted that as well. And shoot, it's a separator. It's just something different. I thought one of the coolest things they did was, they had the marquees downtown saying, welcome Pierce Clarkson, welcome whoever. Right. Like, man, that takes a lot of work. Yeah. Okay, maybe we don't have the history, but we're gonna outwork you with a smaller recruiting department than most have. Most of the ones we're going against have.
Yeah, it was crazy to see Pierce Clarkson's signs up at Lynn Family Stadium at Lou City Soccer Stadium, not at UofL Soccer Stadium, at the USL Soccer Stadium. It's amazing.
Oh man, and it's crazy now. And I'm trying to talk to some of these kids that I get the opportunity. Like, don't make a short-sighted decision for an extra $40,000. Like, and I say that like I don't come from any money. And at the time, I probably would have jumped if someone said, "Hey, we'll give you 100," and then someone else said 60. I'd have said, "Show me that 100 grand right now, and I'll sign on the dotted line because that's 40 grand more." But man, you're talking about mega money that's only going up in the NFL. Yes, you want to be comfortable during this time, and I'm far from being a hater. Like I want this current generation to get paid in college, and people ask me all the time, "Are you bitter that you didn't get the NIL money?"
Somebody asked you that the other day.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. Yeah, one of our caddies at Valhalla asked, and you know what? No, I'm not bitter about it. I'm glad these guys are getting paid. I think the NCAA ripped the Band-Aid off instead of and just open the floodgates as opposed to really managing this and helping the kids out and putting them in a position to succeed, to be able to manage the money and pay taxes and invest and all that. But I'm glad that they have the opportunity to capitalize off their name, image, and likeness. I mean, there's still number 12 jerseys floating around at Cardinal Stadium.
Right.
And we all know those are Brian Brom jerseys, and he didn't make a single penny off of those. And you know what? Everyone thought he was going to have a long, super successful NFL career, and he didn't. Well, being able to capitalize off that money, being on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a junior in high school like Brian was, he should have been able to capitalize on that, and he would have big time.
Well, we're working on something, Eric. If you want to get in on the train, we work on this stuff for Charlie, like some retro stuff. Like, what's up? They owe this man money. They owe you money. So they
should go back and
say, listen, your name is still Eric Wood, and everybody knows who you are. So, hey, what are we talking about right now? I don't understand what we're talking about right now. But,
yeah, and what would I have made as an O lineman? Who knows? But
you were a popular O lineman.
I was going to say,
especially for the position. Right you were extremely popular.
You're underselling it right now.
But I'm not worried about the money I could have made. I'm thinking of Michael Bush and Brian Brom and Mario Uridia, those guys that were local that stayed home and then balled out at UofL. Those guys would have made stupid money.
Absolutely. Well, I want to take you to 2009 real quick. And what these next couple of weeks are like. What was it like for you prepping for this life-altering moment that's about to happen called the NFL draft?
Yeah, I mean, that time from the end of your college season until the draft is a whirlwind. I mean, it's the Senior Bowl, it's then the Combine, it's team visits, it's going to the cities to visit the teams, it's them coming to you, it's staying ready at all times. There's no like, hey, let's go out for drinks on a Thursday night. Well, I could have a visit pop up the next day or a call or a workout, whatever it may be. And that might not be, you'd get a couple of days advance, but you're just constantly having to stay ready because you got to be sharp. This could be the most important job interview of your life at all times. And so it's just an absolute whirlwind, but it's exciting. Like you earned the opportunity to be in that position. And so for me at the time, the first and second round were on the first day, and then rounds 3 through 7 were on the second day. So, my mindset, I had been hearing that I was likely going to be a first-round draft pick. The Steelers had essentially told me if I'm there at 32, they'll take me, but they're not sure if I'll get there. And so it kind of just became this waiting game. Luckily for me, at the time, they only brought like 4 or 5 guys to New York for the draft. Everyone else was at home. So I wasn't going to be in the top 4 or 5 guys. I wasn't a quarterback. So I got to just watch it peacefully at home and not be in that green room as they're scanning all the way to 28 while I'm waiting around to be picked. But it was a special time, something I will never forget. And honestly, a reward for a lot of hard work.
You didn't know it was going to be Buffalo? You didn't have any idea?
I had no idea it was going to be Buffalo. I had taken team visits to 5. You could do 5 team visits.
Right.
They weren't in my 5 team visits. I interviewed with them at the Combine, but they didn't send anyone to come down and work me out. And that's some gamesmanship too, because they knew they liked me. Coach Craig Thorpe was the head coach my senior year. He had been in Buffalo with a lot of the front office guys prior when he was the quarterbacks coach, I believe, of the Bills when Bledsoe was up there. And so Craig Thorpe gave them enough info on me, and they trusted Steve and said, hey, we'll take his word for it. We don't necessarily want to show everybody that we're going to go take Eric. You learn all that after the fact. You don't learn it on the front end.
Right.
But you know, I was doing interviews and they were saying, you know, where do you think you're going to go? And I said, honestly, I could go anywhere from Buffalo to San Diego. And I wasn't talking necessarily geographic. I was talking, you know, like style of living, you know.
Right.
And so I got drafted to Buffalo. I thought it was going to be so far away, and it's actually just little over a 7-hour drive. I loved the community. The organization treated me so well. And, you know, to this day, I still call the Bills games and get to be affiliated with the organization that I love.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So talk about, we talked about it at Valhalla, but talk about how wild it gets out there in the parking lot. You said not the whole parking lot's not like that, but where it is wild, it is wild.
The mafia.
The Bills Mafia.
Yeah, so for those listening that aren't familiar with the city of Louisville, I'll be quick on this, but it would be like taking St. X's campus and putting an NFL stadium there and then surrounding about parking lots, but it's like it's neighborhoods, parking lots, and stadium. It's a cool setup. And so there's plenty of room to tailgate, but on official Bills sanctioned lots, they'll take your parking pass if there's people jumping through tables and all that, because they don't want to be liable. They don't want that to necessarily be their brand. Now, what Bills Mafia has turned into, that they like that too. They like the fact that their fan base is so well known, but you have to go a little bit off the beaten path to find the college kids that are jumping through tables and wasted at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. But man, Bills Mafia is fun to play for. They're passionate. They know the game. They're smart. They were loyal to us through the longest playoff drought in all of pro sports. When I played for them, they were loyal to us. So for them to be able to experience this now where they're winning 12 and 13 games a year, and they haven't won the big one, but that's tough. You have 11 seconds in Kansas City or 13 seconds in Kansas City, or maybe they do that year. It's the little things that have got them, but their sustained success lately has been awesome.
Somebody asked us in the chat, have you ever been through the table?
I have not been through the table, and fortunately, with the career-ending neck injury, I always have a built-in excuse.
Right.
I was thinking he hadn't, but I was like, maybe they caught you slipping one day. I'm like, right.
If Eric goes through a table, he's going through the table and maybe the concrete below.
Right.
It's not going to end well. Who are you looking at this year saying this guy could be the sleeper? He could be the Eric Wood of the draft.
Man, the Eric Wood of the draft, I don't know, because I don't follow the interior lineman that much. It's
your brother.
It's a full-time job to figure out all these prospects and whatnot.
It really is.
A lot of what I'm doing, just covering the Bills, is looking at what prospects they could get. There's a number of interesting wide receiver options in the first round. They got Diggs. Gabe Davis is heading into a contract year. And so where the Bills are at right now, it's not necessarily drafting towards a specific need. It's sometimes looking at, okay, well, we can't pay everybody. So if Gabe Davis is going to get 15 a year next year, okay, maybe we draft his replacement now. And so, the Bills are sitting at 27. Brandon Beane said the other day he thinks there's a better shot that they move down in the draft than up in the draft. But it'll be interesting. I mean, the Bills make more moves in the draft with Brandon Beane as a GM than anybody else in the league. So you always got to be on your toes. I've announced 2 picks for the Bills at the draft when they've since Beane's been the GM, and both times I'm sitting there chilling in the green room thinking I have about an hour, and then both times the Bills have traded up in the draft to grab somebody, and I got to kind of rush up there on stage and get it done. But now it'll be interesting. When I look at this draft, what sticks out to me are the quarterbacks. I mean, that's what you see on ESPN every day, but rightfully so, because there's not like Bryce Young. If he was 6'1", even if he was 3 or 4 inches taller, he'd be the unanimous number 1 pick. At 5'10", yes, this NFL game now is more suited for a 5'10" quarterback because they'll move him around, and they've been able to see success from a Russell Wilson, a Drew Brees, some of these shorter quarterbacks. But you take a risk. He's a smaller dude. I mean, you look at Kyler Murray. He was the number 1 overall pick, and not quite getting it done out in Arizona. And so, you have him. CJ Stroud sure looks the part. Will Levis
I-
looks the part.
I like Stroud.
Anthony Richardson sure as heck looks the part.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so to me, it's going to be interesting to where all that shakes out. Will Anderson's kind of that unanimous guy. Okay, if you're in the top 4 and you're not taking a quarterback, you're taking Will Anderson.
Right.
And to me, with the draft, okay, so when I was in the NFL, there wasn't quite as big of a discrepancy between, quarterbacks are always going to be paid the most, but now it's quarterbacks, maybe a top tier corner per team,
Right.
maybe a top tier wide receiver, an O lineman, pass rusher. Okay, so I have 5 positions. Okay, if I'm drafting high in the first round, I'm likely trying to draft one of those 5 positions.
Right.
Like a middle linebacker, the top middle linebacker in the league, Tremaine Edmonds just signed for $18 million a year. Okay, well, the top quarterbacks are making 40-something a year.
Right.
The Eagles just paid a tackle $30 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so now I'm looking at those positions saying if I can get one of those guys on a 5-year deal, all first rounders have to sign a 5-year deal. If I can get one of those guys for 5 years at those positions, that's what I'm looking for, because that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, that was what our previous GM didn't understand, but our new GM is doing a phenomenal job with that. So I'm really excited about that. If it was you, who would you be taking number 1?
At number 1, I would take Bryce Young.
You take Bryce Young?
Yeah, I mean, to me, he just seems. I know I just said he's a risk because of how short he is, but he also seems the most NFL ready.
Yeah.
He's got some mobility. He throws a great ball. And I've never met the kid. From everything I've heard, he's incredibly intelligent. He's a hard worker. And when Saban doesn't say that about all his prospects. If
Right.
you never know, Saban's not ruining his reputation to build up one of his guys. He's got 4 first rounders, 5 first rounders a year. He doesn't have to.
Right.
And so the way he talks about Bryce Young, you can tell he's going to be great in the building. I don't know about the other guys. So I would take Bryce Young 1, but I'm intrigued by the other 3 as well.
Yeah.
I think if you put Anthony Richardson in the right system, give him a Brian Daboll and give him a GM like Joe Shane and let him develop. I'm just saying that because I saw what Brian Daboll, when they played the long game with Josh Allen, how he developed. I think you could see something similar with Anthony Richardson. You put him in a bad scheme with a bad OC, with a GM and a head coach that are getting fired every 2 years. It's hard for any quarterback to be successful, especially someone that needs a little bit of development.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look at Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly.
He got no right, and he's got the right situation around him, and now he's about to take off.
Yeah,
I think this year Jacksonville's going to be super scary down there.
Yeah, Jacksonville's got a good squad. And Trevor Lawrence, to me, like when I look at quarterbacks, I like my guys fast twitch. That doesn't mean they're fast. Tom Brady is fast twitch. He's not fast. Like he moves in the pocket with an urgency, a suddenness about him. I don't see that from Trevor Lawrence, but he gets the job done. He's just long, and now he's is fast, but he's so long, and his release is long, but he gets it done. And I didn't know how well that would translate to the NFL game, but it's worked
so far. Yeah, last year it was okay.
Yep.
Now the tape's out, so we'll see if they can duplicate it. But
you're exactly right, Lloyd, and that's where you see that sophomore slump at times. I know that he's heading into his 3rd year.
Right.
They call the first year with Urban Meyer a scratch.
So that was a red shirt year.
That was a disaster on every level.
Yeah.
That was a disaster on every level. You were asking, Kendrick.
I was gonna say, you're talking about receivers. One of the show favorites on this show is Zay Flowers at Boston College. What do you know about that guy? Do you think it's a guy that could fit the Bill system? Because he's somebody that's been explosive at Boston College, but not the best arms throwing to him.
Yeah, no, that guy's got a lot of talent. And, in this day and age of football, a guy that can make plays with the ball in his hands afterwards. I mean, we've seen Tyreek Hill, a very short receiver who can fly, who can make plays, and these offensive coordinators get more and more creative at getting those guys in space. I think Zay Flowers is a lock first rounder. Where he ends up is to be seen. I don't have it in front of me. He didn't run a blazing 40.
He
But
didn't. He didn't.
It was like 4.43 or something.
Yeah. It wasn't
I love
up
how
there.
that's not a blazing 40 anymore.
It's not, but to me, if I see speed on tape, I see speed. Now, okay, I ran my 40 at the combine. I was O lineman number 59. 58 big dudes ran on the same field turf right in front of me before I ran my first attempt at a 40. That's a slower surface than the first guy to run. And that's where, like, and coaches will tell you that, like, look, we know that, like, we understand that. But if you can run a fast 40 at the combine, you're fast, and you're likely track fast. You know, a lot of it's just
right. It's tracks.
Okay? Yeah, you're not in a wide receiver stance. I know Zay Flowers can fly. He can move. We saw what he did to UofL. I cannot believe. I mean, you want to talk about probably that after that Boston College game last year was about as upset with I've been with the football team, because they had a little momentum going into that game too.
Yeah.
And then they just completely went up there and laid an egg and lost when they were a massive favorite.
His whole highlight reel is against UofL last year.
So I've seen that, and then I've finally seen a few other clips lately.
I got a question for you.
Yep.
Who in the fraternity are you kind of favoring now in the lineman fraternity in the league? Who are you kind of looking at and say, man, that guy, I'm glad I don't have to face that guy, or on the defensive side?
So as far as defensive guys go, so I was going against mainly interior offensive linemen or defensive linemen. So I think DJ Reader in Cincinnati's great. So the hardest guys are the guys that have speed and power, and they're pretty quick. They got a little wiggle to them, and they're smart. They try hard all the time. Those are the tough guys to go against, and that's DJ Reader. I would say he's probably the top. Obviously, there's a lot of great defensive linemen out there. They'll bump Aaron Donald inside. That dude's great. I mean, people always ask me who the hardest defensive linemen were to go against my career, and I said, look, if you get one-on-one in a pass rush situation against the guys you've heard of, and Aaron Donald and J.J. Watt, those guys are really tough. We do everything we can so we don't get one-on-ones against them, schematically, but those guys are tough. But I'll say, look, there are tons of beast defensive linemen that when they hit their contract year, that's now the toughest guy you went against. And and that's a knock and not. Like, if you're a defensive lineman, and you chase the ball every single play, it's gonna be really hard to go get a sack on third down when it's a money down, So I get why they can't just go all out on every single play, unless you have a rotational defensive line system where they're getting those guys on and off almost like a hockey line change.
I know we got to get you out of here, and we appreciate you spending some time with us this morning. What are you most looking forward to on next Thursday?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how that top end of the draft shakes out quarterback wise, because those are teams that are likely going to start those guys and really early in their career. So it's gonna be fun to see where that shakes out. Obviously, I'll have my eye on the Bills. The other teams in the division, where they select, if they move up, who they end up taking. Does Aaron Rodgers get moved to the Jets on draft day? Do they
finally
hold him out? I mean, realistically, if you're the Packers, if you wait till June 1st, you save a ton on the cap, and so that. If you're the Jets, you're going to have to cough something up if you want Aaron Rodgers to be able to show up for workouts here before June 1st. So, all that's going to be fun to tap into. What's fun now is I got a 7-year-old daughter. It's fun watching the draft with her because last year she literally thought it was a fashion show.
This is what it looks like.
Yeah. So, watching the guys, checking out their outfits and all that. It's fun that they do that because then I can get my daughter and my wife to watch.
There you go. You should add the element of grading of like scoring them this year. Like,
who wore it better?
Exactly. I like that. We'll see who's got the Sauce Gardner chain on and all that.
It's got the big old watch. I do want to point out real quick though. So when we showed up to Valhalla the other morning, I immediately told Eric that I'm terrible at golf. I was like, I'm just here for the comic relief. And Eric was like, oh, I'm not that good either. But he pulls out this thing that I don't know what that was. I didn't even ask you about it. He's working out with this thing. I was like, nobody who has that, I don't even know what it is. Nobody who has that is not good at golf. Then he shows up here today. He's got this giant golf trophy just above his head.
Oh, there you go.
This man is good at golf.
Well, I appreciate it. I didn't play that good that day, but I got a match here a little bit that I actually got run to. No, we had a lot of fun, Kendrick. It was awesome spending time with you. You're a joy to be around. So where you might lack some golf skill and experience, you bring those good positive vibes.
There you go.
Appreciate it.
I've heard that.
I'm actually going to see Justin Thomas later on today.
Nice. Tell him I said hi.
I will.
Awesome. Well, man, we appreciate you coming through and hanging out with us, man. And I know you got to get out of here, but thank you so much. And we will bring you back, man, whenever you got some time. We'd love to have you come back.
Yeah, let's do it. It was my pleasure. Great spending time with you guys this morning.
All right, brother.
Thanks, man.
Hey,
Yeah,
gentlemen,
see you guys.
Greg Wood in the building. In the building. Can't make this up. This is stuff dreams are made of.
Eric's such a good dude. We had such a good time the other day playing golf. He's just a down to earth guy. And we was talking about Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And I was asking him about it. He told me that Josh is such a down to earth guy that he has to remind him not to be so down to earth.
Because
Josh,
sometimes, yeah.
He doesn't realize his star power, and so like I would imagine in Buffalo, I mean, they're probably at a point where they probably don't bug him that much because he's part of the community at that point. It's such a small city, so they probably don't bug him. And so he's just an everyday dude, and it was like so refreshing to hear though, because that
is refreshing to hear.
Yeah, he's just an everyday guy.
I hate to say it, but I am a Josh Allen guy. I like the guy. I think he's
how can you not?
Yeah, he's a solid cat, man, and he doesn't seem to have an ego. So
to me, what's funny to me, because of the way we compare and contrast players, is a lot of times it's based on race, because they're comparing Will Levis to him. Well, I think Anthony Richards is a more comparison to Josh Allen than Will Levis is.
I agree 100%. I don't see any Josh Allen and Will Levis, but again, we watched a lot of Will Levis, you and I. So,
but it's the obvious. He's
right. I get it.
He's fast. He's a fast white guy that's got some size, but he's not near as big as Josh Allen. But Anthony Richardson is.
Yeah, I don't. And again, it's going to be interesting. Going back to what Eric was saying, it's going to be real interesting to see how those four guys are viewed on draft day, because there is some Will Levis buzz right now for whatever reason.
Mel Kiper.
Well,
Mel Kiper is the reason.
He started it. By the way, when are we going to get to the place where we understand that Mel Kiper is the worst evaluator of quarterback talent on the face of the earth? When has he ever been right? He does never right. He's never I think with Mel Kiper, well, a lot of them, most of their analysis is coming from what teams are telling them. It's not their own analysis. You think
it's a combination of what. That's how they do their mock drafts. It's not based on anything.
So what you're saying, Kendrick, is that Mel's claim of sitting in front of the tape and hours and hours.
I'm not going to say he doesn't do that, but I'm going to say that some of his opinion is based on what other people are telling him.
I'll say it. There is no way he looked at hours and hours of Will Levis tape and walked away going, "Hey, this guy's the next thing." There's no way. Not the tape from last year.
Well, that's his caveat. He always says not last year, the year before. But I'm like, okay, you got to go on the most recent thing. With anybody else, they do it. And two, last year's team with their troubles is what most likely he's going into, because he's not going to go into a ready-made situation. He's going to go into a situation that probably has a bad offensive line like he had last year. Probably doesn't have a go-to receiver like he didn't have last year. So
the top four teams drafting are the Carolina Panthers, the Texans, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Colts. 3 out of those 4 teams don't have great offensive lines.
Right.
So what do we? So I don't know. That's
and we know Arizona
last year's tape.
And we know Arizona's not drafting a quarterback.
They're not drafting a quarterback. Well, as we know, we don't.
Not in the first round.
Right? People do crazy things. I don't think Arizona's going to stay there. If I'm being honest,
I don't think they are either.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get out of that spot. But that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I listen to these guys sometimes. From what I've witnessed with my own 2 eyes, it would be hard. I'd be hard pressed not to take Anthony Richardson in one of those spots because I love what I think he can become.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, it's all projection. All of it's projection. So even with the high, would I take Bryce Young first for Carolina?
With him, my thing is I don't think you can go wrong with him or CJ Stroud. Those are my 2. The other, I think those are your ones that you pretty much know what you're getting. I say they're probably your safest picks because I think Levis and Richardson are both projects.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, they're ready made. I think you can put them in and they can hit the ground running. The other 2, I think they're going to need a whole lot more development than those 2.
My Bryce Young fear is the Kyler Murray factor. That's all it is. I think he can.
My thing with Kyler Murray's issues is here.
Right. That's the.
I don't think you have that with Bryce Young.
That's the only reason why I lean more toward Bryce and say I think he may be a better. But I don't know. There's so many unknowns in the Carolina situation that makes me go And they got way more.
Don't get me wrong. For those 2, I do not want either one of them to go there.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
professionally.
I don't think Carolina is necessarily a good fit for him. They may want him. I don't think it's a good fit for him. I'd rather see him actually going to Houston. I think Houston could probably be a better fit for what I think they're ultimately going to become because I like even though the new coach is more defensive minded, I think what they're used to and what they are structured to be, that's probably a better fit. But having said that, if you're Carolina and you got this Jalen Hurts type mind, I don't know how you pass it up. That's the problem. They're kind of in a weird spot.
That's why I think CJ Stroud to me is the safest pick out of all of them because he has as good of an arm as Bryce. He's got the size and he can run if he has to.
Right.
And so he showed a lot, and I really became a fan of his in the semifinal game.
I did too.
And
I thought this kid's way better than I thought he was.
I think he is the safer pick. If I was picking number 1, he's who I would go with. I don't trust either one of those organizations.
No, you're right. You're 100% correct.
I feel bad for both guys because that's the situation they're headed to.
They're both in a tough spot. They what would be ideal for both of them is if somebody like Atlanta would come up and snatch the dream away from Houston,
or the Jets give up on Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Well, I am so ready for that to be over. But you know what? The thing that people have not realized, and I think the Packers are making them realize it now, they don't have to be in a hurry.
Nope.
There's no motivation to hurry this along. Because guess what? The Packers have their quarterback. They're good. They are not stressing about this in any way, form, or fashion. And so they don't have to do the Jets any favors.
No. And
the Jets are stuck. They are
stuck because to me, if I were the Jets, I'd already would have cut bait and gone after Lamar. It made more sense to go after Lamar anyway because he's younger.
It makes a whole lot more sense. And guess what? You still could have got. They could have got OBJ there, and got Lamar and the whole packaged up the whole thing. But anyway, it's crazy. I didn't get a chance to ask Eric this because I was going to ask him what he thought what his Lamar thoughts were.
We talked about it a little bit when we were at Valhalla, and he was just like, they need to pay him because because my thing is, because I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth, and I don't 100% remember the whole conversation. But my thing is, eventually, and like when I say eventually, I'm like in the next couple of years, what Lamar's asking for is going to be the basically going rate for quarterbacks. So why not just get out ahead of it now? That's basically what the Chiefs did. And there's ways you can structure the contract like the Chiefs did.
That's exactly what I've been saying. To me, I don't understand why we're here, because to me, if it's just about the guaranteed money, if that's all it is, if it's not about the specific number of saying I'm the highest paid guy, if it's not about that, then this is an easy fix. Stretch it out to 7 to 8 years. Pay the guy whatever he wants.
Follow the Chiefs. Follow the Chiefs template. I mean, Grant, yes, I agree. I'm the first one to tell you, as much as I love Lamar, no, he shouldn't get paid the same as Patrick Mahomes. No way on earth should he get paid as much as Patrick Mahomes right now. But
not even sure he should be paid as much as Jalen Hurts, if I'm being honest. I mean, that's not a shade, but it's just
that one's I'm kind of tip for tat for that because Jalen Hurts got them to the Super Bowl, but Lamar has an MVP, so it's kind of tip for tat. And Jalen Hurts, and you look at what Jalen Hurts is throwing to, and you look at what Lamar is throwing to.
That's where
So I can be even money with those two, but outside of that, I mean, because Burrow and Herbert, they're not coming up for another year or so. So Lamar, Herbert will. Burrow, he does play for the Bengals.
You think the Bengals are going to try to stiff him?
It's the Bengals.
Well, they have. Right. Of course, they have. They have.
They've got a long history.
Money. Andy didn't get his money. Like they didn't break the bank on those guys. So you're right.
No, it's the Bengals. I mean, most likely, I'd say they'll work something out, but he's gonna have to fight. But that being said, they're still another year out.
Yeah.
So with people whose contracts are coming up, Lamar should be right in there. I would put Patrick Mahomes, him and Hurts and Josh Allen. I would put him ahead of Josh Allen, to be frank.
I would too.
And so, I mean, that to me, that should be the top 4 quarterbacks of the people whose deals are up right now.
I think the Ravens and Lamar don't have a lot of options.
I mean, everything's running
this out. Yeah, I think they need to figure this out and stop messing around with it before it gets bad for both of them. Because and Jalen didn't do Lamar any favors. At the same time, he didn't hurt him either. So now you have some great measuring sticks of Kyler and Jalen, and say it's somewhere around there. It's somewhere. I think, to be honest with you, Kendrick, I think the number is probably 200. Guaranteed. And but if you gotta have, if you just say I gotta be more than Deshaun, then to me this is an easy fix. Okay, then let us take you to 7 years. Let us take you to 8, and you can have all of that money. And if that's all it is, then it's good. But you can't get caught in the ego thing of I want to be the highest per year. That to me, that's a fool's game. That's a fool's game.
And
if I was an agent, I'd tell them that's a fool's game.
But I'm not gonna sit here and claim to know Lamar personally, but what I've dealt with him, I still covered him for 3 years.
Right.
from the person that I know and from what I've talked to him, that doesn't seem like him. That's like necessarily wanting to be the highest paid quarterback. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't seem like his personality.
So you think it's more about security?
Right. It's more about job security. It's more about security and security going forward.
Well, then I don't know why this isn't done then, but hopefully they'll get this done here soon, and we can put out, because I think everybody's, including Lamar and the Ravens, are probably tired of talking about it. When we return, next week we're going to go to the defensive side of the ball. We're kind of talking more offense today. Really didn't talk much anything. We just enjoyed Eric Wood. But who do you from an offensive perspective? First offensive player off the board will be who, in your opinion?
Offensive player off the board, probably it's either going to be CJ Stroud. I think it's going to be CJ
You
Stroud.
think they're going CJ?
Yeah.
You think the GM coming out and saying they made no promises to Bryce Young was that gamesmanship, or was that him saying no?
That's gamesmanship. You can't believe anything that anybody says before the
I
draft.
agree. But you just said CJ Stroud and not Bryce Young though. So.
But you know what? Because I didn't even hear that the GM said that. I'm just going on just what I think is probably the better fit. You know, it is Carolina. It's between those two, and like I said, I don't think you could go wrong with either one of them.
Yeah. Who do you want your boys to take? Your Cowboys. Lot of tight end chatter right now.
Tight end. Actually, I'm fine with Dallas tight ends. Dallas's tight ends actually performed well last year.
They did.
Last year. Well, they lost one of them. If the Texas running back, if he could fall to him, Bijan, if he could fall to him, great. I would love Zay Flowers.
Who wouldn't love Zay Flowers? Everybody wants Zay.
And then on the sneaky back end, and call it nepotism if you want, in college, just because I know his parents, I would love to see Deuce Vaughn play for his daddy, Chris Vaughn.
That is nepotism at its highest level. That is nepotism.
I've known. I don't know Deuce. I haven't met Deuce, but I've known his parents, Chris and Marquette, forever. His mom was like one of the first people I met when I got down to Murray as a freshman in college.
Wow.
And so like they are salt of the earth, great people. Last time I saw Chris was when UofL played Alabama. When Tua Tagovailoa was at Alabama down in they opened the season against them in Orlando. And so Chris was there scouting the game.
By the way, side note, how uncomfortable was it to hear Tua say, well, I considered retiring? I'm like, yo.
I can understand that. The way he got knocked out.
They said he's been practicing falling.
Yes.
His story makes me so uncomfortable because it's just.
Again, another team. I'm like, why do you just not go after them? Look.
Again, I like Tua as a individual.
I love Tua. I like watching him play, but
watching him play. But his journey is wildly uncomfortable right now because anybody that knows anything about concussions, it doesn't get better. Every time you get one, it gets far worse than the previous one you got.
And you're more susceptible.
And you're more susceptible. So the fact that you're literally practicing falling, I just think this year is going to be.
I think Miami should have gone after Lamar. I think the 49ers should have gone after Lamar, to be honest.
To me,
I know they love Purdy, and I know Purdy was great.
Yeah, but that's a no-brainer.
You put Lamar in that offense with McCaffrey and Debo.
To me,
and
what you're saying is the proof of collusion. That type of thing that you're talking about now is the absolute proof of collusion.
Yeah,
There's no one without a brain would say that Lamar dropped into San Francisco would not be
Miami
absolute favorite, or Miami. The absolute favorite to win the Super Bowl. Like, how do you stop that? How do you? That is an AFC East or an NFC West defensive coordinator's nightmare scenario.
Right.
If he drops into either one of those teams, it's the nightmare scenario because you don't have any defensive scheme to stop that. None. Doesn't exist. So. That to me is the proof that's all the proof I need that there's complete collusion going on in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, because him in San Francisco. Oh my god!
Come on.
Oh my gosh.
They would be the favorite. They'd be the absolute favorite. And Lamar is instantly the number 1 pick in the fantasy draft. It's not
and then you
followed by Devo, followed by Christian McCaffrey.
Right. And then you look at Miami, you have him, Mostert, Tyreek, and Waddle. You've got the fast. I mean, you've got a 4x400 team.
You don't have an answer for that. You don't.
You got a relay team right there.
You can barely stop them with Tua. You don't have an answer if you drop Lamar. There's no answer for that. So I don't know. I don't know where this is all headed going into this year with all these guys. But man, the NFL. I don't know who does drama better, the NFL or the NBA.
They're neck and neck right now.
They're both pretty good at it. They're both pretty stinking good at it. All right. We got anything else? I guess that's it for now. Shout out to our guy Charlie Ward, who's standing in front of people trying to motivate them.
Can we give him a humble flex just for?
I feel like we should.
Yeah. We should have did it when Eric was here, but we hit him with one. So
because he. I mean, look what he did. He come on. He can't be coming on our show. That's a whole nother podcast, bro.
And that was a Charlie Ward humble flex.
I can't make it. I'm speaking to. Okay, Charlie Ward. All
right. We get it. You're Charlie Ward. We get it.
You're Charlie Ward. We get it. It's fine. Who you shouting out today, brother?
You know what? I'm gonna give a shout out to our boy Eric Wood for showing up today, and you know I've known Eric since he was in college and whatever, and he's always been a gracious guy, always been a fun guy to be around. The other day at Valhalla, that's the first time you spend 4 or 5 hours with a guy playing golf, you're gonna really get to know somebody. And so he's super gracious. He has his foundation going on. That he's named after his brother. His brother passed away when his brother was, I think he was 11 years old, and he's just a great guy to be around. So big shout out to him, and shout out to my coworker. I hate to call him my number 2, but he's my coworker, my second guy in the sports department, Dusty Baker. Are
you shouting him out for the name or what he did?
I'm shouting him out because he played basketball the other day, and he hurt his knee, and it's bad. He hadn't gone to the doctor yet. It looks like he thinks it might be an MCL. And he's battling it out. He's not missing any time at work. He's still coming to work every day. And I'm just like, dude, this is not the time to be having a bad knee. When we've got Thunder over Louisville coming up on Saturday, right. UofL's spring football game is on Friday, and we've got Oaks and Derby stuff. And so he's gutting it out. So shout out to him for gutting it out. And hopefully when he gets to the doctor, we get a good prognosis.
Kendrick, there's a difference between playing hurt and playing injured. It sounds like he's playing both.
Right.
Wow. Well, shout out to him, man. Hopefully he'll get well quickly here, or you can figure out what's going on with him.
Shout out to Snowfall. I haven't watched it yet, but the season finale was yesterday. I gotta watch it.
I watched it. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
I'm avoiding social media because for some reason people can't watch the show and shut up.
They cannot. That's why I watched it, because I knew it was going to be all, and it was. I won't spoil it for you. I'll just say this show not having an Emmy is an atrocity. It just makes no sense at all.
I think he'll get one this year because I think this season's been the best season.
I think this has been the best season by far as well. And the ending, though shocking, though very, very shocking, it's so Snowfall. Like it's one thing about Snowfall, they don't give you what you want. They give you what it is. This is what you think you want. This is what you want. It's not. I don't care what you want. This is how it's supposed to work out because that's how it is. And you go, yeah, that's about right. So the ending is very poetic and a phenomenal tribute to the man John Singleton, the late great John Singleton. He would be proud. He'd be proud. He'd definitely be proud. So I won't spoil it for you, but it's good. It's very good. So
The best tribute would be to have Doughboy come back and say either they don't know.
Well, listen. I can't. When you finish watching it, you gotta text me because you're gonna be like,
I'm literally
"Yo!"
gonna as soon as we get done with this, I'm watching it.
I was gonna say because it's interesting that you would say that, and you'll know why once you see it. You go so text me when you because it's really interesting. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. It was not what I was expecting at all because I didn't know what to expect.
I've got my theories on what I think is going to happen, but I'll watch it and see.
Watch it and see. I did too. I had theories, and I'm like, well, it's probably going to land here. I was completely wrong. I did not see that coming. Okay. Did not see that coming.
I've got two theories that I'm working with.
Yeah, I was wrong on both of mine. Both of mine, and mine may be similar to yours, and so I'm curious.
I know one of our theories is similar, but
yeah,
my other theory, I haven't shared that one.
Okay, all right. Well, it's gonna be interesting. So shout out to all the Snowfall fans out there. I'm sure it was funny because I was able to go to social media and see everybody's response, and they were like, "Wow!" everybody had the same reaction, like, "Wow!" Did not see that coming as an ending.
I saw a couple of people say they were disappointed, but that's just everybody's gonna be disappointed.
I think the people that are gonna be disappointed, and I figured once I saw it, I figured people would be, but at the same time, those people I don't think really understand it. Right. And there's no disrespect to them, but there's a reason why they did it the way they did it, and I think they got it right. If I'm being honest, I think they got it right. Okay, they got it right. So,
as soon as we get done here,
cannot wait to hear your response to this.
I gotta watch it before I go out to Harmony Land. And shout out to Justin Thomas. He's in town at his annual golf tournament. I'm going out there today. So shout out to Justin Thomas for always coming back home and giving back.
Awesome. Well, my shout out is not really a shout out. It's more of a melancholy happy trails as to borrow from our friends at PTI. A melancholy happy trails to my wonderful, wonderful aunt who passed away on Monday.
I'm sorry to hear that.
On Artelia. We will celebrate her homegoing this weekend, but a wonderful, wonderful woman. Loved life, loved hard, lived life, lived hard. Not hard in the sense of did bad things, but hard in the sense of she traveled a lot, she laughed a lot, she
lived a full life.
Yeah, she lived a full life, man. And it's we hate to see her leave, but we know that she's at peace. And 93, she died at 93.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, that's a good run. That's a pretty good run.
Fantastic run.
And she helped to complete what I think is one of the most impressive things that all 6 sisters, including my grandmother, they all cracked 90.
Wow.
That's come on, man.
That's good genes.
That's good genes. I mean, it gives me some hope. 90, we can crack 90 out.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Not bad. That's not bad.
Right.
So shout out to them, man. And I just wanted to give her a beautiful, beautiful happy.
I forgot one more shout out.
Yeah, go ahead, brother. That's not necessary. That's not necessary. That's one game. It's one game.
And to be honest with you, I totally think the Lakers are going to win the series.
I know you do.
But like Stephen A. Smith, he's on right now. That's what made me think about it. Because he was talking about the series was over after game 1. I'm like, while I do think the Lakers are going to win the series, call that series with teams that evenly matched, to call it over after game 1. That's ridiculous.
Well,
but that's what they do. Because like right now, I can't hear what they're saying, but right now I'm guaranteeing they're saying the Lakers are in trouble and the Grizzlies got the momentum and blah blah. It's like as soon as another team wins, it's a complete 180 on how they talk about the series. It's like that every year. It cracks me up.
I guarantee you, Anthony Davis is catching all the bullets this morning. That's just how.
Well, he probably deserves it.
Maybe, I don't know. That's a whole other conversation.
He did not show up last night, but we digress. We are right there in the show.
Yeah, listen. Y'all should come to the post sometime. We'll join us. It is what it is. He's.
But they'll be fine. They'll go back to LA and
they'll be fine. I'm not that.
I think Ja will be back Saturday though.
He might. It's a strong possibility, depending on how bad this thing is. But I digress. Listen. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoy it. And we'll be back next Thursday, draft day, to tell you how we think the thing.
And if you're in Louisville, enjoy Thunder over Louisville this weekend.
Safely though. Enjoy it
Yes.
safely. Stop acting a fool, Louisville. You're making us look bad. So all right. Peace. You've been listening to Believe in the ACC with Charlie Ward, Lloyd Spence, and Kendrick Haskins. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share from the Noisemakers page on Facebook and on YouTube. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and wherever podcasts can be heard. And join us next time on Believe in the ACC.